Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Tracy Russ with the North Carolina Families for Safe Streets. Our chapter is one of several across the country. We represent the families and communities who are affected by traffic violence in North Carolina. So today we celebrate the life of Valerie Lee Strode. And we call for an end to the speeding violence which took her life too soon. Lee was an eternal optimist. She loved science fiction and self-improvement. She was a cheerful, self-proclaimed geek and a beloved wife to David, who is with us here today. Lee's life was tragically cut short a few days before Christmas last year by a speeding, reckless driver. So today we stand with David, Lee's husband, and the countless other families whose lives were forever changed by speeding violence in North Carolina. And we ask you to do two simple things. Slow down and speak up if a driver is speeding. These two things will save lives. Over the last 5 years, 1,852 people were killed in speeding crashes on North Carolina roads. 1,852 wives, husbands, daughters, sons, best friends, brothers, sisters, neighbors, loved ones that did not make it home because someone made the selfish choice to prioritize their own impatience over human life. This is a preventable public health crisis and it must end now. Eliminating speed tragedies will take a safe systems approach. What does that mean? It means that we'll have to approach this complicated problem from all angles by building safer roads which account for human mistakes, safer vehicles which protect people both inside and outside of the vehicle, and of course through the actions of safer people on the road. Traffic safety is a complex puzzle, and we all hold a piece. Angela Berry, who will speak soon, is working with a brilliant team at the City of Charlotte to build safer roadways, which is vital to ending speed violence. But all of us here have a role to play. The way that we drive, or walk, or ride sets a standard for what is accepted and expected in our communities. Each trip you take is like casting a vote for the type of streets that you want. And you've seen this on the road. As soon as one person does something, it starts a cascade. So if someone uses a shoulder to pass traffic, all of a sudden a bunch of cars follow. And this is especially true for our children. The way that you drive now is the way your child will drive in the future. They're like little sponges, imitators, copycats. They watch us and they absorb our habits. So even if your toddler is years away from driver's ed, they're learning how to drive right now by watching you. So we're asking you to start voting for safety through your own choices. Vote for human life over impatience. Be a role model to your kids. Take it easy behind the wheel. Slow down. The good news is that most drivers in North Carolina don't speed. So if you're riding in a car and the driver starts to speed, we ask you to speak up. Anytime you're in a car, you have the power to prevent a crash. If a driver is speeding, they're endangering your life and the life of everyone else on the road. So it's your right and it's your responsibility to speak up and ask them to slow down. Our neighbors, our fellow North Carolinians, people like Lee, shouldn't be killed while they're running errands before Christmas. Life is chaotic. We're all juggling a dozen spinning plates at any given time, picking up the kids, getting groceries, going to church, school, work. It's all a lot. And it's natural to feel rushed. But it's important that we fight that sense of urgency the second we get behind the wheel, because lives are at stake. We do not accept this level of violence on our streets. There is hope. We can reverse this. So our message today is simple. Slow down, speak up, save lives. For Lee, for your own children, for your grandmother, your neighbor, your dad. When we slow down, we save lives. It's my honor to introduce David Counter, who will tell us more about his wife, Lee.
Okay, this might be a bit rough, so bear with me. I'd like to start by saying a big thank you to everyone in attendance, to everyone who's helped organise this event, and especially to those who advocate on a daily basis for increased traffic safety. You'll hear from others today the disturbing number of lives lost on the North Carolina roads each year, but we're in danger of becoming numb to those figures and seeing each fatality as yet another statistic. I'd therefore like to take this opportunity to put into words the profound impact that one such death has had on me personally, and leave it for you to imagine what the effects of such a tragedy are when multiplied 100-fold, 1,000-fold, or 10,000-fold. On the afternoon of Thursday, the 23rd of December 2021, my life was changed forever. I remember that I was installing a new light when there was a knock on the door. 2 officers from Matthews Police Department had called to tell me that my wife Lee had been involved in a car crash. She'd been killed instantly. It was only later that I discovered from the police accident report that the driver who allegedly caused the wreck had been driving his pickup at an estimated 87 miles per hour in a 55-mile-an-hour zone. Lee had been out doing some last-minute grocery shopping in preparation for a visit with friends for pre-Christmas snacks. There is no good time for tragic news like this, but Christmas is especially poignant and will never again be a joyous occasion for me. Lee and I met and were married in Florida and have been husband and wife for 11 years. We were among the lucky few and had a perfect marriage with never a harsh word spoken. We'd found the ideal place to live in North Carolina and was surrounded by incredible friends and neighbours. We had our entire lives planned out and were about to start our own business in January of this year, offering in-home care for seniors. Likewise, our retirements were mapped out. We intended to purchase a house in Europe and move closer to my roots. Like too many individuals' plans, however, none of this will happen now. Lee was an incredibly smart individual, an expert at everything she turned her hand to, both in her work as a data quality manager and in her pursuit of self-improvement in mind and body. More than that, she was the most caring, giving, selfless person it has ever been my privilege to know. And yet more, she was my wife, my soulmate, and above all, my best friend. All this vanished when her life was extinguished in a moment of madness by the thoughtless acts of one individual, an all too common occurrence on our roads today. In the blink of an eye, a loving daughter, sister, sister-in-law, aunt, niece, and friend to all she met was taken from us at her happiest, healthiest, and most successful. She is especially missed by her extended family in England, who lack even a grave at which to pay their respects. In order to avoid Lee's death becoming just another statistic, I want to take action to memorialise her life and to prevent such senseless, random, and entirely avoidable tragedies from needlessly impacting other families in the future. No one should have to endure the pain that accompanies losses like this. I've spent countless hours speaking with grief counsellors and victim support groups, all of whom perform an unrecognised and frequently underappreciated job. Often I am sad, but sometimes I'm just angry, and today is one of those times. I'm angry that my wife and I won't get to grow old together. I'm angry that the best of people are taken from us prematurely by the mindless acts of those whose only punishment is a cursory slap on the wrist, if and when their case even reaches a courtroom. But most of all, I'm angry that a tragedy such as this is viewed as an unavoidable side effect of our increasingly commuter-oriented and driver-centric society. That the loss of a vibrant human being who contributed so much to the world around her, and to those lucky enough to have known her, should merit nothing more than a metaphorical collective shrug of our shoulders. Yes, certainly, my wife was mourned, memories of her life were shared, tears were shed by her friends and family, but ultimately the world has moved on. The lives of those who knew her will carry on largely as normal, and most worryingly, there is unlikely to be any discernible change to the status quo. But it doesn't have to be that way. It is time to turn that anger into positive action and calls for change. The current situation disrespects Lee's memory. It's not good enough for the people of North Carolina, but most importantly, it does nothing to reduce the number of victims of speed violence. To this end, as you've heard, we're asking that drivers realise that their actions have consequences and adopt the simple mantra, slow down, speak up, save lives. Slow down and observe the posted speed limit. You may not always agree with it, but it's there for a reason. Speak up when you see someone driving irresponsibly, recklessly, or dangerously. And as a result, together we can and will save lives. If only one death is avoided and one family prevented from going through what Lee's family and I have undergone, I know that she will rest peacefully. Safe in the knowledge that she will not have died in vain. I look forward to a time when we value human life as much as we value the thrill of speed. A time when resources and technology, which are already in existence, are used for the good of all, and when we make a promise to ourselves and to the public at large that we will do everything in our power to reduce the number of fatalities on our roads. Perhaps most poignantly, I look forward to a time when officers don't have to break the news of a loved one's death just days before Christmas. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Angela Berry. I'm the Traffic Safety Program Manager for the City of Charlotte, and I also manage our Vision Zero program. David's words hit all too close to home. I have met many of the survivors, and I read all of their loved ones' crash reports. My staff investigates them. That is one thing my staff wishes they didn't have to do. We took up Vision Zero 4 years ago. Vision Zero is the city's initiative to end fatal and serious injury crashes on Charlotte streets. Charlotte's streets. They're our streets. They're our responsibility. They belong to all of us. And we should all treat each other with the respect that each of us deserves to get home safely. I want to get home safely to my husband and my dog today. I want to see my mom. You may think that even 5 miles an hour over the speed limit doesn't have an effect. But I was talking with someone earlier this morning while we were setting up, and speed equals severity. The greater the speed, the greater the severity of the crash. And in this case, the outcome was awful and has a ripple effect in our community. I think we often don't think about that ripple effect, that it's just a blip on the news. That ripple effect, if you look around today, you will see the ripple effect that the loss of Lee put forward. I tried to tell my husband, who is a speeder, and he'll hate me for saying this on camera, you know, and I do speak up and ask him to slow down. His story to me is he's keeping up with the flow of traffic, which I don't agree with, or he has ninja reflexes. We don't have ninja reflexes when we're driving a 2,000-pound machine. The machine has momentum, and it cannot stop on a dime, no matter how quick your reflexes. So keep that in mind. Slow down, speak up, save lives. And now Detective Kupper is going to come up from our major crash unit.
Good morning, I'm Detective Kupper. My job is to investigate fatal crashes within the city of Charlotte and Mecklenburg County. And the one thing that we do find during these investigations is that speed is the contributing factor for majority of our crashes. So what does the city of Charlotte do to try to reduce speed in the city? Well, we take multiple approaches. We use technology, which consists of speed signs that gives us data on where speeding is occurring. We use camera systems to identify aggressive speeders and also locations that crashes are occurring. And then we use our Vision Zero team to get us crash data. We then take all those statistics, we identify high injury networks throughout the city of Charlotte and Mecklenburg County, and we deploy our traffic units and patrol units to try to reduce speeding. Unfortunately, one of my jobs is to talk to families that lose lives in crashes, and everyone hits with us. And the one thing that could definitely help us and help law enforcement is if our community just understands that speeding kills. When the speed in North Carolina says 50 miles an hour, that is the maximum speed. 51 in a 50-mile-an-hour zone is against the law. And there's a reason for that. Statistically, the faster you go, the harder it is to stop. So the speeds are set for a reason. And the reason is to keep our community safe. So us as a community needs to come together, protect each other, and care for each other so that we can stop fatality crashes forever. I'm now going to turn it over to Sustain Charlotte and John Holmes.
Hello, my name is John Holmes, and I'm here on behalf of Sustain Charlotte, a nonprofit organization that advocates for equitable transportation choices and land use policies. Sustain Charlotte advocates for the ability of every resident to travel safely throughout Charlotte, regardless of whether they're walking, cycling, taking public transit, or even driving a car. This is unfortunately not the first time that Sustain Charlotte has to speak up on behalf of preventable traffic deaths. In 2015, we partnered with the residents of Charlotte's Parkwood Avenue to advocate for a road diet following the death of Al Gorman. In 2017, we partnered with residents of Charlotte's West Boulevard corridor to form an equitable transportation team and advocate for a Vision Zero commitment following the tragic death of 11-year-old Taisha Young. And now today, we join you in remembering and honoring Lee Strode as we advocate for safer streets. Our streets are our largest shared public space, but most of our streets were designed to prioritize the steady, unimpeded flow of cars over the safety of people. The needs and well-being of everyone outside of their car were forgotten during decades of road planning and construction, oftentimes in favor of roadway capacity and improving trip times for motorists. History has shown us repeatedly that these priorities are at odds and that it is time once again to prioritize the people in our streets and say, safety comes first. The good news is we do know what works. Take, for example, the Parkwood Avenue Road Diet success story. In 2015, 73-year-old Al Gorman was riding his bicycle on the sidewalk before he was hit by a car on Parkwood Avenue. A memorial ghost bike was put in place exactly where he had been hit. And unfortunately, only a month later, that memorial was hit and run down by yet another driver, showing that the road was still dangerous, despite numerous posted speed limit signs and a visible reminder that someone had perished. Drivers continued to speed on Parkwood Avenue. The residents of Parkwood Avenue recognized that more could and should be done. Over 700 Charlotteans petitioned the city successfully for a road diet, which would take the existing road space and reallocate it to both calm car traffic and ensure that every user could safely navigate the street. Cars that would have sped by at 55 miles per hour were now forced to follow the posted speed limit of 35 miles per hour. Though there was initially concern about the change for fear of traffic, I want to stress to our city leaders how popular this change has been, and to thank Charlotte's Department of Transportation for boldly prioritizing safety over speed. Now, whenever car crashes do occur on Parkwood Avenue, they're more likely to happen at lower speeds, which result in fewer deaths and injuries overall. In addition, the inclusion of separated space for both pedestrians and cyclists means that whenever a driver does inevitably make a mistake, pedestrians and cyclists are less likely to be a casualty. Mr. Gorman's story will no longer be repeated on Parkwood Avenue thanks to the advocacy of so many community members and Sustain Charlotte. Advocacy works when our government listens and responds to residents' concerns. Our advocacy is working, and many partners have joined the fight for safe streets for all. Charlotte DOT has been at the forefront of this fight, creating a Vision Zero action in 2018 with a goal of ending serious injury, traffic fatalities, and harm by 2030. Sustain Charlotte has served on the Vision Zero Task Force since it began, and we will not rest until the work is done. This does not mean, however, that the issue and advocacy ends there. While we do have success stories of what happens when our community comes together for safe streets, the need for safer streets is a citywide issue of equity. Too often, traffic fatalities occur in the lowest income areas of our city. It is up to our city leaders to push for road diets, bike and pedestrian infrastructure, and safe street designs throughout all of our neighborhoods. Your ability to safely travel throughout Charlotte should not be dependent on your income bracket. In closing, I want to leave you with a reminder that safety must always be the priority on our streets, and not just a competing priority. Achieving Vision Zero will take not only investment, but also political will from our elected officials to prioritize the safety of all Charlotteans over the ability to speed throughout our city in our cars. All right, to that I leave it to you.
Thank you, John, and thank you again for coming out today. In honor of Lee, we ask you to please think about what you've heard today and tell at least one other person. Talk to your family, talk to your friends. Commit together to slow down, speak up, and save lives. I want to end today with a moment of silence for Lee.